Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Hello there, folks. How you doing? We're here today to talk a little bit about something I haven't really talked about in a while. It occurred to me today when I was talking to somebody that I just really haven't talked about this particular thing in quite a while, but I think it's highly significant. I think in light of the recent tapes of Stephen and Jody, particularly the ones of the 31st, October 31st, 2005, and a lot of different things. I mean, it seems to be bringing together a sharper picture of kind of what was happening on the 31st, and it looks more and more like the state's narrative is just completely out of, its mind, to be perfectly honest, right? So, I mean, what are all the reasons, that Stephen has no motive, I mean, what and what are the things? What reasons would Stephen have had to, persuade him that he would not want to commit this particular crime if we believe the prosecution that he actually did it? It's like what type of things were there for him that he was looking forward to that it would have made absolutely no sense for him to commit a crime like this just when so many good things were about to happen for him. And then on top of the fact that number one, it makes no sense that he would have done this when he did, then you have the evidence that's completely wacky and sketchy and questionable, right? Which is why they had to end up going after Brendan Dassey and compounding their folly even further, right? All because they knew in the end AEDPA would save their butt, that they would be able to keep it in-house in Wisconsin, and the federal, judiciary wouldn't be able to intervene because of AEDPA. And that's why they feel that they can do this kind of stuff, folks. Victimize 16-year-old kids, who have, diagnosed, issues that were just completely ignored in this. I mean, on and on and on it goes, right? So what's there that would have been hopefully a deterrent? You know what I mean, right? So, and actually was a deterrent. Who believes? I mean, it's hard for me to believe, honestly, in my heart of hearts, it's hard for me to believe that Stephen Avery would have done this when he's literally on the verge of getting two huge paydays. Number one, there's the $400,000 he would be receiving from the Avery bill, right? Okay, and then on top of that, he would also have his lawsuit, his $36 million lawsuit that was going well, looking very good for him, and all that sort of stuff. So it makes, and just like Jerry Buting was pointing this out in a recent article, which I'll link below. I'll show you here a bit of it in a second where he says this, but where he talks about the fact, it doesn't make sense Stephen would have done this. He was on the verge of receiving these two huge paydays. It just doesn't make sense that he would have done this crime, And that's the one thing that the state has never had in this. It's just there is a complete absence of any kind of a motive to explain why Stephen would have done this thing, right? And then you add, like I said, to that, the sketchiness of the evidence, the fact that evidence was sketchy. They knew it was sketchy, so then they felt like they had to go and victimize a poor 16-year-old kid with learning difficulties, and on the, the poop ball rolls downhill, continues to roll down the hill. That's what it is. I'm sorry. That's why I said that, when you look at it, the fact that Stephen has no motive is just kind of the cherry on top of the poop sundae that we've been force-fed by the state of Wisconsin and the prosecution in the Avery Dassey cases. So, it's like I said, when you think of everything that was on the line at the time, there was the $400 that was about to be paid to Stephen, $400,000 that was about to be paid to Stephen Avery because of the Avery bill. But he got arrested before that actually got signed into law, so he never saw any of that. Then you have the $36 million lawsuit, which was going very well, and there was only two more, the most important, two most culpable, guilty parties, really, in a lot of ways, for what happened to Stephen in 1985 were about to be deposed, okay? That's also going on. The $36 million lawsuit, the potential $400,000 for the Avery. All these things were about to happen for Stephen. They were literally these were things that were imminent. They were going to be happening very, very soon. The depositions were scheduled for early November of Vogel and Kosarik, right? and then suddenly this happens, and the evidence is sketchy. There's no proof of this crime anywhere on Avery's property. There's no bloody scene anywhere. All they have are a little bit more than half of the bones in Stephen Avery's burn pit. And then most of them are all scattered across the neighboring quarries. Pretty far away from the Averys, by the way. Manitowoc County gravel pit is actually across one quarry and actually in a different part of land. So it's like not real close to the Averys at all. It's really close to Cuss Road and all those sort of things where Teresa's cell phone was pinging. So anyway, that's some of the interesting things. So let me go ahead and show you right now the piece of the article, and I will leave the link for it below, where Jerry talks about this, and we'll come on back. Avery just never had a motive to commit murder. According to the attorney Jerry Buting, things were going well for him, Buting told the magazine. He was about to receive a $400,000 check from the state for his previous wrongful imprisonment, over and above the $36 million lawsuit against Manitowoc County, which was going well. And he had a girlfriend who was about to be released from jail in a couple weeks. He just never had a motive to do something like this. That should give people pause. The detailed piece leads with the willingness of Buting and co-counsel Dean Strang to have their vigorous defense of Avery ruled ineffective if it helps Avery win his appeal. It also discusses their multinational conversation on justice tour, and why Strang, at least, is a tad skeptical of Avery's new attorney claim that information collected from a cell tower will help clear him of the murder. Kathleen Zellner said she believes it will. That the records related to Hallbach's cell phone will show that the photographer left Avery's Manitowoc County Auto Salvage Yard after the time she was believed to have been killed, right? So that's true. So for me, that's an important thing. Like I said, the bones being found over by Manitowoc County gravel pit, which is closer to Cuss Road, which is closer to where her phone was pinging. Those things are significant. Those things add up together. They start to kind of click together and fall into place. So they are significant to me. But hey, look, I can understand Dean is a little skeptical possibly, so that's fine. They really are willing to, have their case kind of looked at skeptically, and have ineffective assistance of counsel claims made, and if it helps Stephen, so that's a good thing, right? So that's the good reason. That's a big reason why this whole thing doesn't fit well on Avery and Dassey, is just because the facts don't fit well, and the facts actually do support another sequence of events. And would seem a sequence of events that are likely not to involve Avery and Dassey. So that's an interesting thing. So now you did see mention there of the conversation on justice tour with the multinational. Basically all these lawyers are traveling all around the world to talk to audiences to keep the interest in what has happened to Stephen and Brendan and other people in our criminal justice system as well, and to keep people aware and talking about all these things. Because it's important, it's important, that slowly we as a people begin to wake up to what's happening and that we take an interest in it. I truly believe that our criminal justice system in our particular states where we're at or wherever, that they feel they can get away with whatever, some these things or whatever, because they don't. Now with AEDPA, they have nothing to fear. They can keep the whole thing in house most of the time. 99% of the time, they can keep all the cases in state in house, right? And then there's nobody there to go against them. So it's less likely that you're going to get kind of a fair look at it, because states aren't inclined to cost themselves money with wrongful convictions. That's just the logical, empirical truth of it, right? So it's a game where they know it's rigged in their favor, so they're not going to be inclined to pay attention to what new data is coming out and what it's teaching us. They're going to be more inclined to continue to cover their butts and operate, business as usual. That's what I see is going to happen until we all start to get involved, until we all start to take notice, and we all start voting out the DAs and the police chiefs that aren't getting it, and vote in the ones that are. And if they don't get it, vote them out and vote the next one in until you get the people that are going to do the people's will. That's what it's going to come down to. But to be fair, the people have to get together and figure out and decide what their will is. You know, at least in some basic measures, the people need to do that, and then the people need to act on those things. We need to decide those things are important, and then we need to be able to act on those things. And when I say act on those things, I mean respectfully, with respect, and not mean, not aggressive, not those are last resort measures, right? You always start off with civility. That's where you start. If you don't start with civility, nobody else is ever going to take you seriously. If they think you're straight from zero to hothead, they won't listen to you. And honestly, I couldn't say I blame them for not listening to a person like that. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. All right, I'm going to show you one other thing here, folks. It turns out that Dean Strang just had a book come out. It's called Keep the Wretches in Line. Anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit about that right now before we go. In his book, he details the trial following the industrial workers of the world strike in his newly released book, Keep the Wretches in Order, America's Biggest Mass Trial, The Rise of the Justice Department, and the Fall of the Industrial Workers of the World. So this is going to be, if you guys are interested or find this interesting, get Dean's new book for yourself. Okay, so for those of you who are interested, go out and pick up Dean's book. I'm probably going to end up getting it through Audible so I can listen to it. I really like lately being able to listen to certain books. When it comes to my fantasy, when it comes to my fantasy stuff, I actually like to read it. I actually like pages and paper. But with more technical stuff or intellectual stuff, I actually kind of dig hearing it out loud. So anyway, I kind of been using the Audible quite a bit recently. So anyway, though, I'm probably going to go ahead and get that on Audible and give it a listen. It sounds pretty interesting, to be honest. World's Biggest Mass Trial, Rise of the Justice Department. I mean, there's a lot of intriguing things that seem to be happening there. So I think I'm going to be wanting to check that out. But go ahead to go ahead and recap here what we were talking about today. It's when it comes down to it, there's already so many problems that we've already picked out about these cases. Look at Fenn, Wrecking Crew member Fenn with her hashtag 80 more things, inspired by Stacy Seabrook's song "It Really Matters," right? Hashtag 80 more things. I mean, that's where we came up with 80 things that were just wrong with evidence and that sort of stuff, right? That's just with those problems there with evidence. Then you have this added on top where Stephen has no motive, and that's what Jerry's pointing out. It's what I mean, and we talked about this a lot in the first year after MAM1. I mean, we talked about this, how there was just no motive. It didn't make sense. There was no motive. Why would Stephen do this? But it always somehow gets dismissed. But for me, the way that the evidence keeps coming out, the fact that the Manitowoc County gravel pit bones were given back sneakily, what was done was hidden, and all those sort of things, and that the cell tower pings show Teresa going over that direction, right? The fact that there's no hint of a bloody scene and murder and rape and all that sort of stuff anywhere in Stephen's trailer garage or wherever you want to try to say. It just doesn't, and nothing fits. But when you start looking at the cell phone tower pings and the fact that the bones in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, and then we have the state getting rid of those sneakily and then not telling anybody about it and hiding what they did, there's something that's weird. That's odd. Why is that happening? Right? It's like I say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the reason why Manitowoc and Wisconsin is shutting up about this is because they know. Everybody's looking at it right now, and we all know. And if they speak about it and start trying to explain things, they know that their own words are going to end up working against them. because they can't explain all this. The more lies they try to tell, the worse it's going to get. So it's a complete shut up, silence strategy at this point, right? So, all right. So that's what it comes down to. Stephen had no motive. It doesn't make any sense that he would have done this. We've all listened to the October 31st calls between him and Jody. There's no hint of this happening, what they're claiming. There's no hint. It's ridiculous. He talks to Jody for 15 minutes or whatever when he's supposed to be tending a fire. And he doesn't seem occupied or preoccupied, or he doesn't seem like he's in a rush to get anywhere. He just seems happy-go-lucky. He just wants to talk with Jody and be all lovey-dovey and all that sort of stuff. Right? Doesn't sound like a man who's stressed out with performing a complicated rape and murder and all that sort of stuff and mutilation. Right? It just doesn't. There's no sense of that happening there. It's just not. Anyway. So, I hope you guys all enjoyed that today. I just wanted to point this out again. Like I said, I don't think it was getting pointed out enough, so figured I'd go ahead and say it again. But it's just one more thing on the pile of why Stephen and Brendan's convictions are so damn flimsy and questionable. Right? All right. You guys all be good. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.
So let's keep talking about Avery. Yeah, let's keep talking till he's set free. Oh, you just listen, I think you'll see why it matters. Oh, really matters. Put aside the documentary, the state's version ludicrosity. Oh, all their claims so blatantly get torn to tatters. I think that matters. I bet you heard about Hood Lad Sweat, but maybe you ain't heard this yet. 19 more times the DNA that was left anywhere else that day. I think that matters. I really do. I think it matters. I could go on listing things off, 80 more things. I just keep on singing these songs till every freedom rings. I said it matters. It really, I know it matters. It could be you, I think it matters. It could be me, I know it matters. Work with KZ, it matters. I said it matters. It really matters.